She ought to be around when I'm cooking it. I'll skim the pepper seeds off of it. That's when it's really bad, is when I throw that down the sink and all the heat. And it's like it makes me cough too.
Having done this Boudin King Cake, and I don't even know if we should call it a Boudin King Cake. I think, you can. I don't know. We'll have to come up with a creative name for it. But I mean, do you know, or do you have any sense of where this recipe originated from?
In the last 5 or 6 years, you really started seeing this style of recipe. It had to be right around the first boucherie that I went to. So 2016. Yeah, thereabouts. So I started
That's
seeing
almost
that.
10 years, by the way, just so you know.
Yeah, I realize that.
Time flies.
Yeah.
But let's get into the ingredients. Let's talk about what's in here. Let's start with the key component, which is the Boudin. So you and I both used Boudin from Best Stop. So you, if I remember correctly, in your video, you did both the mild and the smoked.
Like I said, for the tender palates in my family.
That's a good way to put it. Tender palates. I like that.
I went with the mild boudin on half of the king cake, and then the smoked boudin on the other half. My favorite of the Best Stop boudins is the smoked one.
And right. I just went with all smoked because the hell with sensitive palates. If I have to eat it all myself, I'll eat it all myself. I don't care.
I agree with you. But I think the key, though, is that, to that same point, is that I would not go with a purely heavy mass-produced rice-based boudin either.
Right.
Because if you're going to put a cheap boudin in there, it's not going to taste good. That'd be the first tip, is to make sure you get a decent, good. In our case, I think we both agree we like a more meaty boudin than
rice.
Those higher rice products.
For me, when it comes to doing a recipe like this, very easily you could prep this in 5-10 minutes and toss it in the oven. So, all right. So we had a little bit of differences in the boudin. We both used the Pillsbury. The sheets is what you're supposed to use, apparently. You have to be careful with the sheets, though, because they are perforated. It's like a Frankenslice. It looks like it's got stitches. But this is the best part about this. There's no waiting for it to rise. There's none of that, typical king cake stuff. It cooks up perfectly. We both used your pepper jelly. Now, that was stuff you made when you were in the biz, as it were. And so you're not doing that any longer. So
yeah, quite honestly, I've rarely tried any other pepper jelly other than mine. Because like you were talking about, growing up, I really did not feel inclined to try it. I guess, we get to a certain age and we give it a shot, and then it's like, damn, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
But I would think Tabasco is probably a good one to try.
Right.
I would definitely give it a shot. I wouldn't go with anything that's going to be really hot, like a habanero or a ghost pepper or something that's just...
There's certain people that can tolerate that, but if you're trying to appeal to a wider audience and truly make this like an appetizer, either thinly sliced or as a light, pre-meal type thing, if you blow out somebody's taste buds, then they're not going to enjoy the rest of their meal anyway. I think cayenne is about as hot as you want to go. The cheese is we're using pepper jack cheese.
The mild half, I just did regular Monterey Jack just for the girls, because it was trying to tone it down a little bit. But the pepper jack, just the craft pepper jack, was, that adds another little bit of component to the heat. Okay. Once again, to me, that's not that bad. But no, I said you can tone it or mix it down with either a combination of the Monterey Jack and or pepper jack if you're concerned about it being too hot.
You slice down the center of the link, and then I did like maybe an 1/8 to 3/16 of an inch thickness slice, and then just wedged it in there. And what happens is it melts, but not completely, but it's soft overall. So it adds a creaminess to the texture of the meat. It gives you a little bit of the heat, of course, but I think it softens the flavors a bit, rounds it out. I tasted it by itself as like an individual component, which you should do prior to making this so you understand what you're getting into. As I learned the hard way with the pepper jelly, don't go and just assemble all this stuff willy-nilly without knowing what you're putting in there. Don't wait for the finished product, because if you do, you're going to be surprised of flavors that you may not have expected to be in there. And then bacon. Now, you went with bacon bits, right?
Yeah, partly because it was more than what you could really add to this. I ended up with like the 2.8 ounce jar.
So I went because it was for me, I went with the toss it in the oven, bake it. I think you probably go 2 to 3 ounces because you don't need to coat it. I mean, you don't need to just slather this thing with bacon. I mean, you can, but if I were thinking about like, okay, well, how would I add a little bit more texture? I would take bacon that is mostly cooked, like par cooked or a little bit more, and then roll that in with the boudin and have it inside the cake, and then top it with some bacon as well. Yeah. It turned out, I mean, it was perfect. It was perfect. That's it. Well, we got kosher salt.
I just grabbed some sea salt we had in a shaker. Okay. I have some kosher salt up there, but you also do an egg wash on the outside of the.
That's right. That's right.
You crack an egg and do an egg wash over it, and then you do this kosher salt.
And then the green onions, in retrospect, for the purposes of reheating, I would have left off the glaze, and I would have left off, well, pretty much all the toppings, because you're not, like with a king cake slice, like a traditional king cake, you're not reheating it. I mean, I guess you could put it in the microwave for a little bit, but we're all used to eating king cakes at room temperature. So putting those on top, what that does is it causes them to recook. And the green onions, which are supposed to be green, wilt very quickly when they're heated. Yeah. So I think it's a garnishment anyway. I mean, it probably adds a little bit of flavor, but certainly if I was serving this to people, I would actually have the glaze in like a little like serving bowl, like a gravy thing, and you could just pour some on, and all the components would be separate, so allow people to build their own, because the glaze does add a significant amount of heat, but it also adds the sweetness too. So why not just, make that an optional thing, or make it so that, or you could have two different types of glaze on there. You could have the hot glaze and you could have the mild glaze, and then people could build their own. Yeah. But that at least
well, the other thing with the green onions is that it's going to have a different flavor when it's fresh versus when it's cooked anyway. It's going to be more intense, fresh.
If you're not planning to consume this all at once, I would wait to put the green onions on until right when you're about to serve it. Keep them cold. Yeah. If you can, keep them intact. Cut them right before you need them, and then put them on. The glaze, like I said, I would probably put some on to make the bacon stick, but then I would reserve some to pour on and heat separately from the slice that you're reheating. What I ended up doing was I microwaved the slice for about 30 seconds. Then I put it in my air fryer in the bake setting. Okay. And I put it in there for about 5 minutes or so at 325. Okay. And the air fryers are kind of like a convection oven. So if you have a convection oven and you don't have an air fryer, this is a great way to brown and crisp the crust and still keep the inside. Yeah, because if you put it inside the air fryer only or a convection oven only, it's going to heat from the outside in, which means your outside's going to be well done before the inside boudin is reheated. But if you microwave it first, heats up the center, then you just finish the outside in the air fryer, and then you put some more glaze on, and then you put the onions on, and that seems to work. You can see, like in this one here, you can see how there's that This side's full, but if you go to this side here, there you go. See that gap?
Yeah.
Where the cheese is melted. So, but that the structure remains intact. I mean, it's still all there. So,
yeah. I don't know how well mine can focus in on it. Probably not as good, but about kind of like yours in some ways. Yeah.
So this one definitely got darker in the air fryer, like the meat and everything after I cut it. But
yeah, yours still has a good crunch to it.
Mm-hmm. This is like, well, it's cooled down substantially since I heated it, but this is like it came out of the oven in terms of the texture. So you're getting the flakiness of that rolled dough, the heat. Oh, the heat's definitely still there. The thing you have to watch though is that if you're heating it in the microwave, reheating it in the microwave, the cheese will melt, be the first thing to go, and it'll spill all over everything. So as soon as you see that cheese start to pour out of the side of the slice, stop your cooking process, then toss it in the air fryer. Otherwise, all of the cheese is going to melt right out, and that essential component is gone. These are both, this and the sushi king cake are kind of stretching the definition of what a king cake is. Let's be honest here. This is just I would make this any time of the year. Look, if you guys are interested in making this for yourself, just do it. It's worth it for like a party and stuff. Well worth it. Well worth it. I mean, that one slice that I just had, which was probably about 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches wide, that was, enough for me. I mean, I may go back downstairs after we're done and maybe have one more slice just to make sure. Quality control, it's important. Yeah. I mean,
some of my coworkers, they commented they weren't sure I really had the recipe down yet. So they told me I probably need to bring another one in just to make sure that I've got it.
Sorry. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap this one. Thanks for joining us. Remember the recipes. The recipes down in the description. We will give credit to the source of the recipe because that's what David and I both use. And and then also David has his video. I've got the video that I did. Take a look at them so you get a better sense of how we put these together. And go make yourself some Boudin King Cake. I think you'll be happy with it.